Every year, the World Economic Forum drops its report on the top 10 emerging technologies, and it's always a fascinating look at what's coming next. So in this explainer, we're going to dive right into their findings for 2025 and see what's on the horizon.
But, this isn't just a list of cool, futuristic gadgets. The report's really asking a much deeper question. What breakthroughs are actually ready to make the leap from the research lab into our daily lives?
And that, right there, is the real magic of this report. We're looking at technologies that are hitting a critical turning point. The science is proven, and now they're poised to have a massive real-world impact. Okay, so here's what's really interesting. When you look closely, these 10 technologies aren't just a random collection of cool stuff. They actually group together into 4 incredibly powerful trends. And if we understand these trends, we start to see the bigger picture of where our world is heading.
First up is a pretty radical idea. What if the things we built could also power themselves? We're talking about a fundamental fusion of materials and energy, building power systems directly into the very fabric of our world.
So let's start with something that sounds like science fiction. Structural battery composites. Just imagine for a second, the door of an electric car isn't just a door. It is the battery. That's the idea here. A single material that gives you physical strength and stores energy, all at the same time.
The key here is just how much more efficient this is. The old way, you've got a heavy, clunky battery pack taking up space and adding weight completely separate from the vehicle's frame. The new way? The frame of the vehicle becomes the power source. It's one single elegant component doing the job of 2.
And this really shows you the impact. For the airline industry, this is huge. If you can make an airplane's body or its wings part of the battery system, you could slash its weight so dramatically that fuel efficiency could jump by up to 15%. That's an absolute game changer for making travel more sustainable.
All right, let's move on to our second big trend. This is where we stop just building with smarter materials and start harnessing life itself. We're talking about using biology to create completely new ways to improve human health.
This one is called engineered living therapeutics. Now, instead of making complex drugs in a giant factory, purifying them and then injecting them, what if you could engineer tiny microbes to be little medicine factories that live right inside your body? That's what this is. They produce a treatment exactly when and where you need it.
And you can imagine, this completely changes the economics. For a lot of modern drugs, something like 70% of the cost comes from those really complicated purification steps. Well, if your body becomes the factory, you basically get to skip all of that, which could make these incredible treatments so much more affordable and accessible.
But really, the story here isn't just about money. It's about the human impact. If you're someone dealing with a chronic illness, this could mean trading frequent, painful injections for maybe a single dose of engineered microbes that just work, providing a steady supply of medicine. It doesn't just improve your health, it could totally transform your quality of life.
Now for our third trend. This one takes that same spirit of innovation and points it at some of the oldest, dirtiest industrial processes we have. It's all about fundamentally redesigning them for a sustainable future.
So take a look at this. When you think about industrial carbon emissions, what comes to mind? Probably cement and steel, right? But look at ammonia production. Its carbon footprint is nearly double that of steel. And why is that a big deal? Because ammonia is the key ingredient in the fertilizer that feeds about half the people on Earth. So what's the solution? It's a technology called green nitrogen fixation. For more than a century, we've been stuck using a really carbon-intensive process. This new method, though, uses renewable energy, like local wind or solar power, to pull nitrogen from the air and turn it into ammonia, which could almost completely wipe out its massive carbon footprint.
And the impact here goes way beyond just emissions. Because you can use local renewables, this technology makes it possible to build smaller, decentralized ammonia plants. So you could have a local farming co-op making its own fertilizer. This kind of shift would make our entire global food system so much more resilient and secure.
Okay, this brings us to our final trend. As our world gets more connected, more digital, more driven by AI, a really tough new challenge pops up. How in the world do we maintain trust and safety when our online world is flooded with synthetic content?
And the scale of this problem is just massive. The Forum's own Global Risks Report points to misinformation as one of the biggest threats we're facing today. If we can't tell what's real from what's AI generated, the very foundations of trust start to crumble.
This is where something called generative watermarking comes into play. You can think of it like a subtle, invisible fingerprint that gets embedded directly into AI content. For a piece of text, it might be a specific, unusual pattern of word choices. For an image, it's tiny tweaks at the pixel level, totally invisible to our eyes but crystal clear to a machine.
But let's be real. It's a complicated problem. Watermarks are not a silver bullet. People can try to remove them or fake them. And for a system like this to really work, you need everyone in the industry to get on board. But even with those challenges, it's a really important first step toward building a digital world we can actually verify and trust.
So we've looked at 4 really powerful trends. But the final insight from the report might be the most important one of all. It's not just about these individual breakthroughs. It's about how they connect and build on each other to create even bigger changes over time.
And this just shows it perfectly. Back in 2015, the report highlighted CRISPR gene editing. A couple of years later, in 2017, it spotlighted mRNA platforms, a technology that leaned heavily on those gene editing tools. And now, today, those same foundations are making the engineered living therapeutics we just talked about possible. You see? Each breakthrough becomes a building block for the next one.
And that's really the core message. These amazing technologies aren't just popping up on their own. They're part of a huge, interconnected web of innovation. The most powerful, world-changing stuff happens when different fields start to converge, when material science meets energy, or when biology meets AI.
So, in the end, the report kind of leaves us with this one big question. We have these incredible new tools in our hands, tools that can make us healthier, our industries greener, our societies more resilient. The technology is here. It's at that turning point. The only question left is, what path are we going to choose?